Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
First of all, we'll begin a revision from last week. Ishvara contains or is made of two natures. First one, the higher nature, which is chapter 7, Para Prakriti, consciousness or awareness. Whenever we say these two words, they are absolutely synonymous in Vedanta. The term per the Upanishads is Brahman. This is the higher nature. And the lower nature, Apara Prakriti. In other words, matter. What is matter? Anything that we can observe, that we can perceive. Per Upanishads, the language for lower is Maya. We also specify the word mithya, a very important word. So what is mithya? For example, you look at this hand, and we all call it hand, yes? Is this a hand?
Yes.
Okay. Now why do we call this a hand? Because we perceive it as a hand. Okay? So what if we get a more powerful instrument, which is able to look beyond, maybe zoom in into this structure? Then what do we see? We see something like molecules. So from the standpoint of molecules, is it still a hand?
No.
No. So why are we calling it a hand now if it's actually molecules? Now if we go one level deeper and we say, oh, it's actually not molecules, if we get a more powerful instrument, then we call it atoms. So is it molecules now? Well, why do we call it molecules just a moment ago? So if we get a more powerful instrument and we see subatomic particles, is it still atoms now? Why do we call it atoms? If we look at the subatomic particles and we see that it's actually revolving in around a nucleus as just pure energy, is it subatomic particles now? Why do we call it subatomic particles? If we look at that energy and we see by the perception of it that it's actually in an orbit, a space, something's holding it, something's accommodating it, is it still energy? No, it's space. Because without space, how are you going to observe or postulate that it's energy? And is it still space, considering that you have to be conscious to say space? What is space? It's a thought. Space. Is space a thought? Yeah, because you need to think in order to say space. We need to use our minds to say space. So is it still space or is it a thought? It's a thought. Because without thought, you can't say anything. There's nothing to mention about this world. So we're saying it's a thought, but now we understand that to say a thought, I have to be conscious of a thought. So is it still a thought? No. Now we've arrived from the hand all the way to thought, and we've negated the thought also. Can we negate consciousness? What would be the problem if you negated consciousness? What would be the logical fallacy with that? I negated consciousness.
You needed consciousness to negate it.
Yeah. So if I say negated consciousness, then what's the question going to be? Now, how do you know you negated consciousness? Obviously implies you were conscious of negating consciousness. So you didn't negate consciousness. You had to be aware of the fact that you negated consciousness. So the final point upon which we can no longer negate into smaller, because we went from hand to molecules to atoms to subatomic particles to space to thought, and then when we're out of consciousness, can't do it anymore. So thus consciousness is what we talked about, the higher nature, the Paraprakriti or awareness. That's why it's called the higher nature, because nothing is higher than the highest. So if you look at this hand to this cycle, going smaller to smaller, what do we see? We see form within a form. Within a form. So there is form of molecules within the form of the hand. There is form of atoms within the form of the molecules. There is form of subatomic particles within the form of something that is after it, like the atoms. There is form of energy in the form of the subatomic particles. There is form of thought in space. So forms within forms within forms within forms is the definition of mithya. Whichever way you look at it, the moment we change our perception, we see a different form which we haven't seen before. So this is how this entire world that we perceive every single day is. We give reality to this world as though it is the absolute reality. But the moment we change our angle, there is actually a smaller constituent which makes up that which we're perceiving and giving a name and form called tree, for example, or water. And the other definition for this important word, experientially available, but factually non-existent. Tell me this. When night falls, is it night? Huh? I'm going to ask this question. When night comes and we say nighttime, is it night?
For you.
Huh? For you?
In Melbourne, yeah.
Yeah. What happens when you change your time zone? Is it still night? It is experientially available, thus I call it night, but is it factually existent? It is factually non-existent, because the moment I change the angle, that which I called night now is negated by a different point of view, thus that's what we call mithya. And we also call this in the Tattva Bodha session, and we use the word bathita or bathitam, that which can be falsified upon the knowledge of its actuality. I falsify it once I gain the knowledge of its actual truth. In other words, I falsify the night once I understand it is only night owning to something relative called time zone. The moment I get out of that relative position, then night no longer applies. Thus, bathitam, it can be negated by providing the knowledge of what it actually is. But only to the lack of that knowledge, I fell for that nama rupa, thus I called it night. Because I did not have the knowledge of what? Time zone. The moment I include time zone, then night is not so much night anymore. It is only a possibility from this point of view. The real nature, this is the next point, of Ishvara, is the higher nature. The higher nature also includes the lower nature. Thus, to say consciousness is also to include its what? Its power of aparaprakriti or maya. For example, does the gold, i.e. higher, exclude the ornaments, i.e. lower? So what do we say? The higher does not exclude the lower. The higher in this example is the gold. Does gold exclude any of the ornaments, whichever ways you can call those ornaments? Not at all. Wherever there is lower, i.e. ornament, which is what? Nama, rupa, name and form, mithya, maya. The moment I change that form, it is no longer that form, is it? Nice bangle, I'll pay you $1,000 for it. But the moment you melt it and you convert it into some non-structural form, it loses its value. Thus, that's the nature of mithya. But the truth of mithya is what? The higher nature. Because wherever there is ornament, i.e. mithya, that's exactly where there is gold. That means the content of that form is always the one and the same gold. And that gold is compared to the higher nature. So while this maya, this lower nature, is operating, it creates different forms. For example, what turns the gold into a necklace or a ring? Whatever does that is what we call maya. So if I give you a huge block of gold and suddenly you see a wonderful ring made out of it, then you're going to ask, what made it so? What took this gold and made it into a beautiful structure? The answer is maya. Yeah, which is sattva guna and raja guna and tama guna. This constitutes both intelligence or knowledge and power, which is raja guna, and material, which is tama guna. So what did I just say? Tama guna is the material. Raja guna is the power which takes the material and makes a ornament. How? According to sattva guna. Because sattva guna is knowledge. You need knowledge to create something that has a structure to it, like a ring, right? There's actually a intelligence to that. that serves a purpose. So these three gunas are always involved in creating this world that we're experiencing right now. And to account for these appearances, we give that name, we create a name called Maya. In other words, Maya doesn't actually exist. It is just a concept that we created in Vedanta to account for the many appearances, for the many ornaments that we experience in this world, where in actuality, what does Vedanta say? There is actually only one without a second. Is there two golds? There's only one gold. So what does Vedanta say? There is only one gold, and that gold I am, that consciousness I am. So what's going to be your objection now? Okay, fine, but then how do you explain this world? Like, why so many? If everything's one, then why do I see so many? In order to explain that, we do what? We introduce the concept of Maya. And that Maya is these three Shaktis, which are able to borrow consciousness and create differences or variety in this world that we're experiencing right now, including this room.
Because awareness only, or consciousness only, without the access to the all-knowledge and all-power, would be like a zombie. Just be aware but nothing happening. And then with the actual introduction of knowledge and power, is that when everything blossoms out?
No, consciousness is Satchidananda. It is full of itself, and it is infinite, it is limitless. So thus to call it a zombie is actually that's only from a standpoint. Yeah. See, when I say conscious, I'm talking about Brahman, Satchidananda. And so that means that when a Jivan Muktaha dies and merges with consciousness, that means they become a zombie, right? So that would be a problem. So that thinking is not 100% correct.
I'm trying to think of awareness, but without the creativity. You know?
Awareness doesn't need creativity because, see, all the creativity that we're experiencing is because of Ananda of the Satchit. So we're just experiencing finite creativity, but you are infinite creativity. Thus, Brahman or consciousness does not need creativity because it already includes it.
But isn't there the difference between all-pervading knowledge and knowledge which is being limited with boundaries to have that sort of blossoming of creativity?
Yeah, we're seeing like boundaries of creativity, yeah. But your nature is infinite creativity, yeah. One example just to demonstrate this, when we see rain, how do we explain this rain, right? We go, okay, rain falls. So what do? We then create three concepts. We say, well, there is a process of evaporation, right? So in other words, the water evaporates from the oceans and it goes into a state of condensation, that is a cloud. And then that water goes through a process called precipitation and then it falls to the ground. So in other words, what do we just do? We invented three names in order to explain a phenomena, in order to explain how it actually happens. In the same way, we create this name called Maya to explain how is it that we have so many ideas and varieties and infinite possibilities in this universe. Thus, don't take this word Maya too seriously because it's just another name in language, just like precipitation or evaporation or condensation. Yeah, that's an important point to keep in mind.
Can I ask about if it's appropriate to use the word ignorance as for another word for Maya? So Maya being a type of...
No, Maya is not ignorance.
But if it's its effect is that it veils things so that you can't see the whole.
From the microcosmic point of view, not from itself. It is.
I remember in another class we were saying that it's a very intelligent ignorance, or something. I thought it was.
No, it's not intelligent ignorance. It is Shuddha Prakriti Panchadashi, which means it is all knowledge. It is full. It only becomes ignorance called Avarana Shakti from the point of view of the microcosmic. But if of itself, it is full. It is not ignorant of itself. It doesn't go, I don't know who I am. No. We only say I don't know who I am from this microcosmic angle. Okay, so to call Maya ignorant will be incorrect. Maya is all knowledge.
But we are ignorant.
Maya is all knowledge with limitations. Because unlimited...
All knowledge with limitation.
Because all knowledge that has boundaries is Maya. Because once you get unlimited knowledge, you're back to Brahma.
No. Maya is unlimited knowledge. You can't have all knowledge with limitation. Those two words are contradictory. All knowledge means there is no knowledge that can limit it. It is all knowledge.
Yes.
Yeah, so that Maya belongs to Brahman. Okay, we also discussed about 5 glories last week, and I will go through them before we begin the verses. The first glory was, the Lord is formless. What does this mean? You can't put a limit to it. You can't put a boundary to it. Remember that? We used the example of the mountain. So the moment I put a mountain, a name, the mountain has edges. It begins and it ends. Thus, the mountain cannot be formless, because to call it something, I only call it something by what? By its limitation. So therefore, formless is that which is all-pervading. Nothing can stop it. There's no edges to it. Can we see the mountain? Can we perceive the mountain? So if it's formless, can I perceive it? No. So it is beyond sense organs. So whatever is formless, I cannot perceive, because the moment I perceive it, I've limited it to the capacity to which my sense organs can detect. And for this reason, formless means it is free of sound, free of touch or tactile feedback. I can't feel it. It is free of color, shape, form. It is free of smell. I can't smell consciousness. I can't smell a divine person. Oh, they smell so good. I really want to get close. You can't do that, because that's just perfume. And we can't taste it. The moment I taste it, I've limitless into a one particular taste. It's so sweet. Well, what about saltiness? Am I excluding that? Yes, I am, if I call it sweet. Thus, we cannot define it anything whatsoever. And we also said that if we ever experience God, what are we experiencing? The higher or the lower? Lower. The lower called? What's the lower nature? Maya. What is Maya? Mithya. Forms within forms within forms. Glory 2 was omniscient. Omniscient means all-pervading. That means there's no place where it's not, including the very minds that are listening to this right now. Both the ignorant person and the knowledgeable person is also not excluded from all-pervading. Thus, we can't now say, they're excluded, they're rejected. There's no person that is rejected from all-pervading. This is what it means to say everyone is part of the one. So this should start to change our attitude towards other people, because to say he's ignorant and it's not fair, right?
So could you use the phrase limitless, limited knowledge?
I understand what you're saying. Limited knowledge arises out of limitless knowledge. Just like the limited form, why is this a pot? Because it's a pot. Now, while it's a pot, is it a fork? But it has the capacity to be a fork.
Does it not?
Unlimited forms of pot that it can be.
So the clay itself is limitless. Out of the limitless arises what? The limited knowledge, which we call pot. But it's not limited to the pot, because the pot can change. And glory 3 was Ishvara is the substratum of the material Mithya Jagat, the Mithya universe. And when I say substratum, see what happens? Instantly the mind imagines what? Like a substratum is different from what it sustains, right? I'm not talking about substratum like movie, screen, and the projector shining onto it. Why? Because that gives the mind a separation. Like there's a source over there which is called Maya, and it's shining on Brahman, and Brahman is the substratum. What do I mean when I say substratum? Think of it this way. Is your personality apart from your physical expression? Wherever the physical expression is, that's exactly where your personality is. If I'm very expressive in my physical expression, what does that instantly give away? My personality. So the personality and the physical expression are never apart. Thus, the personality is the what? Substratum for the physical expression. Without the personality, can you have a physical expression? Without the physical expression, can you have the personality? Yes, you can. Good. because you don't have to move. But your personality is still in what? Seed state. So this means that consciousness, the higher, is the essence of lower matter. Consciousness is the fundamental cause out of which creation comes, is sustained, and goes back into. Out of what did the Big Bang arise? That's what we mean. Creation has to come out of something. That something is glory number 4. Consciousness is the substratum out of which arises creation. Creation rests on, like your physical expression is resting on what? Your personality. Without the personality, there is no physical expression. And then, what happens when you stop acting? You're just like this. Where did all that expression go into? Into the personality. The other example that we used was ink and the word. Can you have this form without the ink? So suppose, actually should more like, so there's no separation between the words, right? It's better. Now suppose this person, which is made out of the ink alone, suppose they're looking for the ink. Are they going to succeed? Why not? Because the very act of looking is also made out of what? The ink. Suppose this person believes, the person called the world, goes, I'm not liberated, I'm ignorant. Can you see the problem making that statement? Even the statement, I am not liberated, I am ignorant, is made out of what? The ink. There is nothing but one single ink. No matter what we say, what we think, what we feel, what we emote, what we perceive, it is all made out of what? The one same substratum, which is none other than the ink. In this example, the clay. Thus, there is nothing I can do to find myself. Why? Because the very person who's trying to seek for themselves is also already the sought. The seeker is always the sought. Thus, the seeker will never discover the sought because the seeker was never anything other than the sought. Thus, what does this mean to drop the search, to stop thinking, to just be okay with one's life? It means that I cannot do anything about the fact that everything here is one ink without a second. It is all one single substratum. And what converts this ink into this world, into this form? Maya. But it doesn't matter, because even if it's converted, it is still what? Consciousness. And glory 5 was, I am unsullied. I am not contaminated. I am never touched by the word. Suppose we have a really rude word here. Is that going to touch the ink? Does that make any difference to the ink? And a really pleasant, like unbelievably beautiful word, or an expression of the divinity, like hugging and loving, is that going to touch the ink? It absolutely makes no difference to the substratum. It only makes a difference to whom? To the form itself, but it doesn't touch the self. And what's the self? The ink alone. So in other words, the ink is never tainted, polluted, contaminated by the form which is created out of Maya itself. Thus, the person right now can say to themselves, I'm messed up. It makes no difference. I am beautiful and lovely. It makes no difference to whom? Self. And what's the self? Consciousness alone. So what does it mean to live this knowledge every single day? It is to acknowledge forms, no doubt. We're not ignoring forms and saying they're an illusion. It's simply saying, well, there is a form, there is an emotion in my body, I don't feel really good today, or may feel fantastic today. But the point is, no matter what you think, whatever you emote, however you perceive, it is all still the one same consciousness alone. So thus we start to live in this way without any worries that I'm supposed to find something over there tomorrow. Because even the thought of tomorrow is also made out of what? Ink. In other words, I cannot get out of myself. I'm always already the self. Sarva bhutani kaunteya prakritim yanti mamikam kalpakshaye punastani, kalpadau visarjamyaham. 5 and 6 last week stated that Ishvara is the Srishti, Sthiti and Laya Karanam. That means the cause of creation, cause of the maintenance of creation, and also the cause of swallowing up the creation. And the question now will be, how does Ishvara create? I'll put in quotes, create, because I should give you a hint. How does Ishvara actually create this world that we live in right now that does not exclude these very words that are being, because the sound is also creation. So whatever we see around us is that creation. How is all this created? Yeah, definitely, Maya. And Krishna says, before this manifest universe came, it was already in me. Me means Ishvara. So what I ask, how does Ishvara create? What was the answer? Before this universe came, it was already in me. So has creation taken place? No. That which is inside me already means nothing was created. It simply, when the conditions are right, comes out into a manifest condition. So it was already in me in unmanifest form, in potential. Quantum physics will call this possibilities. So possibilities means it is in potential and there is nothing that is not possible. So the first thing that we've established is you cannot create something new, ever. Even science will provide a law of conservation of matter and energy. What does this law say? That everything only converts to a different form. If we burn a piece of wood, matter, what does it convert into? Smoke matter. That's what we mean. Everything converts. Nothing goes out of existence or goes into existence. And also, Ishvara cannot create. What's the problem if Ishvara creates something new?
It's separated from us. It's separated from the creation.
Yeah, okay. What else would be the problem if we say God created something new? Huh?
Time and space.
Yeah, okay, time and space. There's another
It
reason.
implies he has a will of sorts, doesn't it?
Okay, close.
Duality, yeah.
Huh?
It comes back to duality.
Okay, what is Ishvara? You said at the beginning, all knowledge. Now, suppose Ishvara creates something new. Does that stand up to the definition of all knowledge and all power?
No.
What does that mean? That means Ishvara forgot. So something goes, oh, I should have addressed this kind of person. I should have created a loka for a Hitler type, right? So to create something new is to what? Limit the creator. All knowledge, all power means every limitless potential. There is nothing that was not already done. Everything already is complete in its totality. Totality means there is nothing that I can now, out of another totality, take into this totality. Totality just means everything already is total, complete, whole, finished.
That's why I meant by limitless, limited knowledge.
Yes, I understood that. Yeah. Just a metaphor to demonstrate this. Suppose you have a seed. We look at this very small seed and we see what inside. Suppose we grind it up. Look, am I going to see a tree? Why not? There is a tree there. Yeah. This is what we mean, law of conservation of energy. Nothing is ever created new. The tree is already in there, I just don't see it because it is in a different form. So I can't now say, oh, see, the tree is created. I can't say that. Why? Because the tree was already in the very origin which gave birth to that potential, which I now go and verify as a tree. So the tree was there all along, just in a different form. Humanly example. So in conception, after 2 weeks after the last menstrual cycle, the egg will be released from the ovaries into the fallopian tube. And it will wait for the sperm to come. And out of 500 million sperms, only 200 will survive. Out of those 200, only one sperm will penetrate the egg. Now, one sperm contains 23 chromosomes, and inside the egg, there's another 23 chromosomes. So there's a genetical code for both the female and the man. And the moment that sperm penetrates the wall, what happens? The 23 combine together. What happens then? Instantly, in that moment, already Jivatma has a new home. When the moment these two chromosomes come together, instantly you have what? A blueprint for an entire human being. So what does this mean? The moment there's conception, in that moment where those two combine, instantly it is already a Jivatma, a person in potential. So this means we look at this DNA, this genetical code, and in it is already a blueprint for a human being that is yet to be. So we can't now say a human being doesn't exist. Why? Because you know that DNA contains 262,000 pages of data if you put out all of the information in DNA. Out of that 262,000, 500 pages is what? Only for the human being. So those pages, 500 pages of human being is already dictated in that genetical code. Thus, there is a human being which you call yourself a Jiva, but that human being, those features were already where? In the genetical code. So why am I saying this? Just to show us how the potential is always prior, even before we see it. We share 261,500 pages of genetics common to all species and animals. And only 500 dictate whether you're going to be a human being or how you're going to look like, what color, what hair, what color of eyes, how tall, how big, how small. So that gives you a new definition when we try to, compare races, or like try to put someone up or down. We're only talking about what? 500 pages of data. And the other 261,000 is what we all share together with the entire world. Because we still have epigenetics. That means like it's a layer on top of DNA that determines how the DNA is interpreted. So now you can't say, well, because I have, genetics of cancer and, from my past history and diabetes and baldness at 50 and asthma at 60. The reason why we cannot say that entirely is because, as I said, there's a layer of epigenetics, and that simply means how that information is actually interpreted will still determine of what environment you expose yourself to. Right? So genetics is not entirely set. There is a level of overriding. We can override it. How? By changing the environment, what we expose ourselves to. So for this reason, if someone in the family has a condition, it doesn't mean you will have a condition also. You just have to expose yourself to a healthy environment, and then you'll cancel out those genetics. Yeah. So the point is there's a blueprint in this DNA code. In the same way, what does Krishna say? In me, there is a blueprint already for the entire universe. And this blueprint is in unmanifest condition called Maya. Yeah, so Maya can be sort of compared to the DNA. The whole blueprint for the entire person is where? The DNA. For the blueprint for the entire creation is where? Maya itself, which is all knowledge. Just imagine right now that you are a mini Ishvara. What is Ishvara? The truth of Ishvara? Paraprakriti, consciousness. We will call ourselves right now the waker. And this waker is called mini Ishvara, which is consciousness. In us, there is a power, a Shakti called Maya. A potential. Potential for what? A potential to dream. A potential to create a world. A beautiful, complex world. With many characters, with many people, with classes called Vedanta, with cars, with roads, with trees, with mountains, with spouses, siblings, moms and dads, with different foods. All of this power is in us. And this power is in unmanifest right now because we're all waking state. When the conditions are right, this power that we all have creates a wonderful world that we're all experiencing right now. So every single object that I'm seeing in this world, every emotion that I'm feeling, every thought that I have about everyone, including myself, from the standpoint of the dream, all of that is pervaded by what? One same waker. So right now, all of this is a dream. And we're talking about the waker, we're talking about the dreamer, we're talking about Brahman, we're talking about the higher, we're talking about the lower. All of this now is a dream world created by what? The waker's potential power called Maya. Now, who's the waker again? I said, just imagine that you are the waker. And in you, there's a power called Maya, which creates a world that looks exactly like this, which then we find ourselves in, and we talk about what is the truth, what is false, what is, what's all this, what is Jivan Mukta, what do I need to do, what are my duties, what is death, what is all of this, and it looks absolutely real. We give it absolute reality. We even feel emotions. We're trying to talk about who's right here and who's wrong, which system is correct, which system is out there that is yet to be explored. Everything we do is what? Pervaded by whom? The one same waker. And that waker is none other than yourself, the self. That's what we call the self equated to the ink. And what is the ink equated to? The higher nature. And what is the higher nature? Consciousness, awareness, Brahman, which pervades the entire universe as the substratum itself. Suppose now the dreamer, the person in the dream, wants to discover the waker. Are they going to succeed? Why not?
Because the waker is a shared expression of Maya, whereas the dreamer is a private experience of Maya.
Because you can't separate yourself from the...
Excellent. That's okay. I like that.
In other words, to look for the waker is fruitless. Why? Because even the thought of looking, even that thought itself is pervaded by the waker. Even the attempt, the movement, the action, the word to read who is the waker, even that entire process is pervaded by the waker already. In other words, there is nothing I can do to discover the waker except one single principle. And what is that? How is the only way to discover the waker? There's only one way.
Wake up.
Self-knowledge?
Self-knowledge, yeah? Okay. Wake up. Okay, but do you need to wake up?
No.
Okay, why not?
Because you already are awake.
Yeah.
Does the word need to wake up to the ink? Why not? Because it's always the ink. So what does this mean? The word needs to own up that it already is pervaded by the very truth which it is seeking. What does owning up mean? There is nothing I can do about who I already am. So what does this mean? Accepting everything as already the one waker. There's nothing I can do about what I already am. Thus, what do? I own up to what already is. And what already is that which pervades everything, including every single character in this room, your family, your children, your parents, your emotions, your dream state, your waking state. Everything that you can think of is already pervaded by what? The one single waker. And in that waker, again, there's a power called Maya. And when he creates this world, we fall so much into it and we think it's so real. And then we talk about it. We start wars and we start religions and we go to friends and we have parties. And we even fight. We even try to preserve our tradition. And it is all pervaded by what? The one same waker. That's what Advaita means. One without a second. Can there be two wakers? Why not? How can you say there's two wakers? Because even if I say there's two wakers, there is also an idea pervaded by what? The one same waker. I'm already complete and whole. What is already complete and whole? The ink. Is the word complete and whole? No. So what do I do then? I change my focus from what? From the word to that which pervades the word. Even the attempt of changing the focus is also pervaded by the ink, the waker. In other words, in this dream world now, which is all pervaded by the one waker, there is a person called Jeeva Muktaha, a liberated person. Now, what does this liberated person know that a normal person does not know, in the light of what I just shared, that comes from the Upanishads and not myself? What does that Jeeva Muktaha know?
He's the waker.
That I am the waker. That even if I think I'm not the waker, even that thought is also pervaded by the waker. Even if I look at that person and I call them ignorant, even the words I, G, N, O, etc., and even that person is also pervaded by the waker. And who's the waker? None other than the self. So when this Jeeva Muktaha dies, what happens?
He's one with the waker.
Nothing happened.
Okay. What happens if I erase this and I change and I mess up this word? What happens? What happened to the ink? Nothing. But what changed? What is removed now? What is now removed? The form, the world, created by what? Maya. So what remains after the Jivan Muktaha's BMI dies? The eternal waker called Sat Chid Ananda. Limitless awareness minus the apparent limitation of the word. Just like when the dreamer wakes up, as Rani said, what happened to the entire dream world? Gone in 1 second. What remains? The waker. Now, can you say the waker now is, doesn't have any experience of them? They need the dream to know who they are? Can you say that? Why not? Because the moment you wake up, what happens? You are as alert, if even more alert than in the dream world. So what happens when a Jivan Muktaha dies, their body is destroyed? Just like a enlightened person, a liberated person, what happens if I drop this pot and it breaks? What remains?
Space.
The clay. But the pot's broken, does that matter? Why not? Because however many pieces the body has broken into or the mind has collapsed, what remains? That which was already all along, which is the clay itself. Whereas you got an ignorant person who has not assimilated this knowledge and their pot breaks, their body breaks, owing to their focus onto the word and not to the ink, or onto the form and not onto the clay. Why did they get a new body? Because they thought I was the form. So this means when your focus changes from the form onto the substance, the content of the form, the ink of the word, the gold of the ornament, then is there any reason to get a new body? What's the point? Because whatever is gained, I already am. So the only way to get a new body is how? If I believe that I need this form to continue existing. Whereas a Jivan Muktaha has ascertained that I do not need the form, because no matter what form you give me, even if it's an insect, it is still the one same content. Now, Krishna is going to say, Kaunteya, Sarva Bhutani Prakritim Yanti. Hey, what does he say, Kaunteya? Every once in a while he says, Arjuna, listen. He's intentional. This is Krishna's strategy so you don't fall asleep. All beings come back to me in Prakriti. What is Prakriti? In unmanifest state. That is called Maya. In other words, everything in this world comes back to my Maya, into my unmanifest state. Just like the entire world that we're experiencing now comes back to whom when the waker wakes up? None other than the waker. So this entire world right now belongs to, Krishna calls it me, the higher nature of Ishvara. In this way, the Prakriti, which includes both the manifest and the unmanifest, this Prakriti of the entire creation depends on me. Just like this entire dream world that we're experiencing right now depends on whom? The one waker which pervades everything. Without the waker, there is no dream. Thus, you can have a waker without the dream, but you can't have the dream without the waker. Okay, now let's compare this macrocosmic and microcosmic relationship, the experience between an individual and the total, the vyashti and the samashti. What is the individual dream world created out of? What is the individual, the person's, like say Martin's world? What is Martin's world going to be constructed out of? Dream world.
Memories and imagination.
Yeah, that's correct. Samskaras, which does not exclude memories, does not exclude conditionings, does not exclude life experience. Now, what is the total world that we're experiencing now made out of? Okay, so individual's dream world is created out of individual samskaras. Samskara means habitual impressions. Impressions from where? From this life, past life, childhood, even in the womb. So if they come from the individual samskaras, then what does the total world that we're experiencing come from? The collective causal body. Because remember, the causal body is that which holds or accommodates the samskaras. What's the causal body for the macrocosmic called? Hiranyagarbha is subtle body. Causal body, macrocosmic, Ishvara. That's all Ishvara means. The causal body of the entire universe. The principle which causes the universe. Now what's it, because I know what you're going to say now. Yeah, but you said in Panchadashi or other texts that the causal body for the individual is purely Tama, or mainly Tamaguna. So are you saying now that Ishvara is also Tamaguna? The difference is, what is the Ishvara's higher nature? Maya, and Maya is pure Sattva Guna. Whereas for the individual, the causal body, the deep sleep state, is predominantly Tama Guna. That's the only difference. Now, Krishna is going to point out, when does the unmanifest occur? What does unmanifest mean? In science, they call it when the universe comes back into a state of nothingness. Unmanifest, we just say when there's a macrocosmic dissolution of what? Of the entire universe. And the entire universe does not exclude the 14 lokas. So whenever I say universe, I'm not talking about just this physical universe. I'm talking about all levels of reality that are not even perceptible to human beings. All 14 lokas, including Brahma Loka. The answer is end of Brahmaji's 1 day, which is 1000 Chatur Yugas, which is 4.32 billion years, which we already discussed in the previous classes. So every 4.32 billion years, what happens to this entire universe and this earth? It goes into unmanifest. What remains? The waker alone, as always is. And then, when does the unmanifest condition go back into manifest? After 1 day of Brahmaji's rest, which is another 1000 Chatur Yugas, 4.32 billion years. So, in pure English, what happens is, every 4.32 billion years, there's a place of nothingness. Manifest, 4.32 billion years. Unmanifest, 4.32 billion years. Manifest, 4.32 billion years. Eternally. This is the Vedic model. I know you're going to say the universe is 13.56 billion years because the science said that. Oh Arjuna, at the end of each cycle, all beings resolve into my Prakriti. Again, at the beginning of the next cycle, I create them. So right now we are in one of the creations out of beginningless creations. So there's nothing special about us. This is just the same old thing that's already happened eternally before.
Does that relate to what you said before about creation, the difference between creation
Been here for a while.
the difference between creation and manifestation? Would it be more correct to say manifests and unmanifests as opposed to create?
All the thoughts go.
If we're going to follow that logic?
Yeah, okay. Good point, Martin, good point.
Yeah, Martha made a good point. So it's better to say manifest, unmanifest. Manifest, unmanifest, eternally. Prakritim swam avashtabhya visirjami punah punaha bhutagramam imam kritsnam avasham prakritir vasat. Okay, visirjami punaha. The punaha is 2 times. It means on and on. In other words, I create this universe, or this universe manifests on and on and on. How? In a cyclic process, forever, permanently. According to Vedanta, creation or manifestation is a cyclic process. There is no such thing as linear creation.
Cyclic.
Cyclic. Yeah, so it's... huh? Cyclic? It is like this.
It's like a cycle, a bicycle.
Now, what happens if you have an idea of linear creation? The moment we have this concept that creation began and it will end one day, and it started at some point, there is an infinitude of logical problems that come with that. Is what came first, the chicken or the egg? Yeah. So, because see, the person's coming from a wrong, uneducated perspective, that they think that creation began and before that there was nothing. And now, because of that knowledge, I'm able to ask what came first. When did creation first come? Actually, I've got one more question. What comes first, day or night?
No, they're just a cycle, like cyclic.
Good. That was my own logical problem. It's like saying, what happens when an unstoppable bullet penetrates an impenetrable wall? Right? How do you do that? Right? It's either unstoppable, that means nothing can stop it, but the wall is impenetrable, that means nothing can penetrate it. So the question came out of my own logical fallacy, logical conclusion. In the same way, we cannot ask when did creation or when did this manifestation first arise. How does Brahman create on and on and on? The answer is Prakritim Swam Avashtabhya, by the help of my Maya or my Prakriti. For example, can the waker dream without samskaras? So I need the help of samskaras to create a world called the dream world. In the same way, how does Brahman create on and on and on? By the help of my Prakriti or Maya, which is able to manifest this entire manifestation. And what do we say about the difference between the individual's dream world and the total dream world? Individual samskara and total samskara. And consequently, owning to my Prakriti or my Maya, the power, Bhuta Gramam Imam Kritsnam, I create multitude of infinite beings or sentient beings. And what kind of beings do I create as a result of my Prakriti, Maya, says Krishna? Avasham, helpless beings. Why helpless? Before you answer, can you just like go, you know what, I'm not going to dream tonight. Are you going to be successful at that? Okay, maybe you can just drink coffee and stay awake, but the point is we still get tired, and the moment we fall asleep, what's going to happen? Dream world comes. So isn't that funny? The dream world depends on the waker, and yet the waker cannot control his dream. So why helpless?
That's why.
Because ignorant Jeeva cannot stop this constant, eternal, manifest, unmanifest process going on and on. Punaha, 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 punaha. There is no off button. And even better, suicide doesn't work. Why not? Because suicide is... because suicide is what? It's papam. So the moment a person decides to commit suicide, what happens? They acquire papam, and the next life they get born, they have even more suffering. Now, if they commit suicide again, thinking that's another way around, then the next life is going to be even more suffering. In other words, why are they helpless, avasham? there is nothing I can do to stop this eternal process of manifest, unmanifest, manifest, unmanifest. So now what is the only way to stop it? The only way to stop it? Moksha. So thus, the person who has ascertained this knowledge stops this process. How? By changing focus from the form to the content which pervades all forms.
Well, yes.
Can you say the first Jiva was pure and untainted? Can you say that?
Untainted. Jiva is always
First
tainted.
Jiva. And then he accumulated all the rasa.
The logical fallacy. in your
Yeah, logical fallacy.
Adam,
Yeah.
we just talked about that. There's no first.
Yeah, there's no first. There's no first.
Adam and Eve. Freedom by Adam and Eve.
Go back 3 sessions or 4 sessions ago, I recorded what would be the problem if you have a first Jiva. Okay, I'll explain it now. What's the problem if you have a first Jiva? How is a Jiva born? According to your Karana Sharira, samskaras. So now you have to ask, then what was the first out? Where did the samskaras come from? Yeah, but then a karma is a result of action. And for action to be true, there has to be a Jiva before that.
Yeah.
Like I say, in other words, this creation is an eternal process. There was never a first Jiva in this world.
Disappeared.
Brahmaji is, you can't say human.
Brahmaji is also just a term manifest, unmanifest.
Now, when I say moksha, what do I mean? Vedanta. And when I say Vedanta, what should come to your mind? Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. What is Shravanam? Listening. Mananam, removing doubts based on what you've heard. Nididhyasanam, reveling in this knowledge for the rest of your life. Having scripture is something that you can always read, never forget about it, or keep your mind actively in this field. Okay, summary of verse 8. This Maya alone evolves into this creation. Just like your potential to dream alone is what evolves or makes or which projects this entire dream world. And this is called Srishti. When it's created, it dances for a while. Sthiti. It's preserved. After it's, what happens if once you've danced a lot? What do? You go home and you just want to what? Sleep. When there's a sleep, what happens? Nothing. And that nothing is what we call laya, disillusion. I just want to go and rest. In the same way Brahmaji, the creator, I'm not talking about Brahman, creates, sustains, dances, and then after 4.32 billion years, goes back into sleep. And then we have nothingness for 4.32 billion years. This is why if you look at the Nataraja, the dancing Shiva represents the Maya in its dancing form while it's going on. Right now we're in the dancing form. Important to understand is this creation, sustenance, and dissolution, these 3 parts, they are not within time. But time itself is a result of these 3 conditions. This is why we cannot say anything before the Big Bang. In other words, how does time come? Power of Maya creates, sustains, and destroys. In these 3, we give time. When these 3 go, there is no time and space. Resorting to my Prakriti, I create again and again this entire multitude of beings which is helpless, being under the control of Prakriti. Nacha mam tani karmani nibadhanti dhananjaya udasinavad asinam asaktam teshu karmasu. We know the 5 glories. Now, what is glory 6? This is the last glory. And this glory will be answered through a doubt. The doubt goes like this. If Ishvara is the Srishti Karanam, then it seems like Ishvara is the doer, Karta. It seems like Ishvara is, in order to create something, do you have to move? Do you have to think? Yeah. So then it seems like if Ishvara is the cause of this creation, that makes Ishvara the doer of this creation. Why do you do an action? Do we do actions to suffer? We do actions to enjoy. right? Can you ever do an action to suffer? Almost impossible. Do you eat to suffer, or do you eat to enjoy or appease your hunger? Okay, so in other words, to be a doer, a karta, is to automatically imply a bhokta, an enjoyer. Enjoyer can also be sufferer. If Ishvara is the cause of this creation, that makes now Ishvara a sadist. Because even to give a human being a body, one little mosquito bites us, what happens? Suffering. So if Ishvara gave us a human body, and we suffer when there's a mosquito bite, that makes Ishvara technically a sadist who enjoys our pain. You know, it's a reasonable doubt. And that's just the physical. What about psychological trauma? What about abandonment issues? What about those who are born in families who get abused? Right, so it's not a joke. I mean, what about those who get rejected? You know, someone says something rude to them and they go through a very hard time and they want to commit suicide. That's a lot of pain. What about those who lose family members? That's extremely painful. So just to get a body, just to be a human being, automatically assumes suffering. So why would now Ishvara assign a human body for us to suffer? We have to answer this. Any ideas?
Because to know joy, you need suffering.
Huh?
To know what is joy, you must have suffering.
Well, that's painful to come to that process, so I'm still suffering.
Well, to know that, you have to realize yourself.
Okay. But still, I mean, there's still suffering, you know, until
If
that...
you have suffering, then you realize the self much better. Without suffering, there is nothing
Or
going
you
on.
just say that he didn't cause it.
Okay, much
Yeah.
closer. Yep.
Yeah, you didn't create human
He
beings.
creates the environment where the
For them to
spontaneity
suffer.
of the manifestation.
Okay, yeah, okay, the front row, got it. I will combine the front row now.
He's the sustainer of the manifestation.
Yeah.
Okay, the answer is, suppose the waker, we are the wakers, remember? The waker has a power, Shakti, called Maya. So all of us have a Shakti called Maya. And when this Shakti tonight operates, what's going to happen? A dream world is going to be created. Right now, there's no dream world. And when the conditions are right, it's going to create a dream world. Now, suppose the dream character, when the dream is operating, decides to play the role of Hitler. And they decide to cause worldwide destruction. And get to enjoy that, because we just established to do something is to enjoy, right? I want to get rid of a race, so in order to do that, I'm going to destroy the race. So right now, I find myself in a dream world, and I'm Hitler, and I'm causing massive destruction. So now, suppose that I now wake up. You wake up. Can you now be held accountable for the destruction in your dream?
No. Definitely not.
Can you?
No.
Not even waking.
Yeah.
Well,
Unless you and yourself and said you destroyed the world.
What happens if I now go to the police station and go, sorry, I killed
1,000 people last night.
100,000 people last night. Right. What's the police gonna say? Can you show us the location?
Take him into your dream.
Well, yeah.
yeah, let's just go to sleep here.
Yeah, right?
But what if I had a dream on a boat? I threw them all in the ocean.
And so end of the day, I just tell them, yeah, they're in my dream. And what is the police gonna say? Well,
Go to psychiatric hospital.
Yeah, that's a nice story, sir, but we can only arrest you if you committed this crime here, in this world. But then you say what? Yeah, but I was there. I was in my dream. Yes, sir, we know you were there, but the point is that world that you're talking about has nothing to do with this world.
Report it to the dream police.
We're talking about a different world here. So, it goes like this. The waker cannot be held accountable. Why? Because number one, the waker did not willfully decide to play out the character. The waker was not offered 5 choices. I want to be Mother Teresa, I want to be Hitler, I want to be Gandhi. I think I want this one. The moment you go to sleep, what happens? A world gets created spontaneously based on the samskaras, which I did not even create myself. And the second reason, even if you disputed that, why the waker cannot be held accountable is because there are two different orders of reality. Satya, Mithya. Remember the word? If I put war here, does war in any way put ink accountable for the word? And if I put peace, does peace in any way make ink accountable for the word? So war and peace entirely is of its own decision. It's a different order of reality. Even though they are entwined, they actually have nothing to do with each other. Understand that? Satya Mithya relationship, or Athishtana Abhyasa Sambandha. In other words, substratum, superimposition, relationship. Which means that all of the enjoyments in the dream and all of the actions in the dream did not belong to the waking Purusha, they belong to the dream Purusha. We understand that the dream was pervaded by the waker. But the point is, it is not the actual person who is in bed enjoying in a comfortable room. It's got nothing to do with that person. It was all in a different world. That's the point. So nothing has to do with the waking Purusha. For this reason, Krishna says, I am abhokta akarta. I am not a enjoyer and I am not a doer. Because I did not do that dream, for that reason I did not enjoy that dream. And neither am I the creator nor destroyer of that dream. Do you decide when to wake up? What happens? That power in you called Maya automatically ends. You don't go, oh yeah, I think I'm going to now press the stop button. We don't do that. It does it by itself. Now, Krishna says, Mam tani karmani nibadhanti. All actions do not bind me because they are lower order of reality. That lower order is called Maya. Just like when the waker wakes up and says, it was just a dream. In other words, no matter what happened in the dream, does that make the waker's life miserable? Yeah, I know you. No, generally, I know you can say that, but generally no. Because that's why we say, oh, it was just a dream. Instant relief. When I realized that no matter what I did in the dream, no matter how much I enjoyed or suffered in the dream, upon waking, I realized, it was just a dream. In other words, I did not incur any punya and papam as the waker. All of that belongs to what? The dream character. Two different orders of reality. Nothing to do with each other. That's why we call it Glory 5. I am unsullied. I'm not contaminated by punya and papa karma.
What about if there are no dreams?
No dreams.
Dreams have to be there when we are sleeping? Why do we say they're dreams? I mean, I don't remember any dream.
Yeah, you don't remember science. Yeah, you don't.
So I don't know whether they're there or not.
That's besides the point. Whether you remember or not, the dreams are still there. Yeah, but science is also proven because REM, rapid eye movement, if they look at your eyes, the moment you're moving your eyes, you're accessing parts of your subtle body. So everyone dreams. Whether you remember it or not, that is besides the point. Yeah. It's helpful if you remember because it's kind of more relatable, relate to this
context.
So even if you're having constant dreams every night and doing really despicable acts to other people every night, so you still won't incur any papam from that?
No, you just wait, papam here in the waking? No.
No, I can't see what you're saying.
That's why we say it was just a dream. Instantly, the whole thing is cancelled, negated. So they have nothing to do with each other.
But that's samskara, you say.
That's just samskara.
So that means there's something you need to deal with. Why is projecting in your dream all the time?
Yeah, that means you need to address that. Okay, how does Ishwara not incur any punya or papam? This is a question now. Despite causing this universe. And what's inside the universe? A lot of entities. Doing what? A lot of good things, not so good things. Punya, papam. And this is going to help us answer how to live in this world, actually. So it's a practical instruction. Krishna is going to say, Teshu karmasu asaktam. I am not identified with, I am not attached to, I am not involved in any karma. Consequentially, udasinat asinam. I remain as though an indifferent person, indifferent purusha, an uninvolved person. So Krishna is giving us a hint how to live. I remain as though an uninvolved person. And this is what we call, in Sanskrit, abhimana tyaga. I renounce any sense of pride in any action or result of my action. Why do I renounce all pride in whatever happens? Remember what we said about the dream. Did you create the dream? The dream comes whether I like it or not. So whatever happened in the dream, does that belong to me, the waker? Absolutely not. So what is Krishna saying? I renounce any sense of prideship that because of me, this happened. The truth is, whatever happened has nothing to do with self.
I have a question. Because we taught before in the Gita that the individual is not responsible for the action. They are not the doer. And now we're saying that Ishvara is not the doer either. So who is the doer?
How is a dream occurring? Based on samskaras. So based on those samskaras, only to the three gunas, they're able to capture that and create a movie based on the samskaras, based on the totality of the entire universe. Now, why do we have samskaras? Because of yesterday. And what's the point of this creation? To exhaust punya, papa, karma. So what happens is this. The three gunas, they take the samskaras and they create a world to accommodate those samskaras, those impressions. That's why we have the world. If you have a tendency to, suppose, sing, what is Ishvara going to give you through its three powers? A studio, right? A music, an audience. So I have to sing. There has to be an action of singing in order to do what? Exhaust the need to continue singing.
I suppose he has to create a need for listening in the universe for you to be able to
provide an environment for it exhausting.
Yeah. Okay, now here's a point, because Matthew is asking differently. What made Andre sing? Three gunas, sattva guna, raja guna, tamaguna. When they operate, while they're operating, they are what? They're a vehicle, they are like a helping agent for samskaras to come true. Just like, how do you operate a steam engine? You need the steam. So the steam is just present. And according to the nature of the instrument, it then performs its function. For example, suppose I infuse a fan with electricity. What is the nature of the fan? So electricity just is neutral, value neutral. The moment electricity penetrates the fan, what happens? The fan, according to its nature, based on its samskaras, using the help of the three gunas, it rotates. When that same electricity penetrates the light bulb, what happens? It does according to its nature, which is shines. So is electricity, i.e. Ishvara, as you pointed out, is electricity doing the action, or is the nature of the instrument doing the action? The nature of the instrument. So when electricity penetrates the fan, the heater, the light bulb, that electricity remains as is. It does not instigate those natures to do what they do. All it does, it supplies itself, it blesses those instruments, and based on the condition of those instruments, based on the nature of those instruments, they do what? Perform exactly what they are meant to do.
So we are the instruments, isn't it?
We are the instruments. Now, what is your instrument according to a human body, because this is an electrical instrument? Your mind. So if your mind is sattvic and consciousness is flowing through a sattvic mind, what kind of thoughts are we going to have? good, holy thoughts. Now suppose there's a rajasic, a nature of the mind. What happens when that same consciousness flows through? Very active, passionate thoughts. Suppose the mind is tamasic, and same one consciousness flows through, one waker flows through that mind. What happens? The mind does according to its tama guna, that is hurtful actions and criminalistic actions. So Mathu, the question was, what does the actions? The answer is the nature of the instruments. And what is Ishvara? Value neutral consciousness, which simply blesses the entire instrument. And what is this entire world? Maya, which consists of many infinite instruments in the 14 lokas. And when consciousness blesses all 14 lokas and every single human being, what does every single human being do? Acts according to their nature. Thus, who is the doer? Is the doer now Ishvara? Is the doer the three gunas? Or is the doer the nature of the instrument? Nature of the instrument.
Doer is Maya.
Because doing is provided by the help of Maya, which is the three gunas.
Okay.
So who do you blame?
Who do you point the finger
The
at?
thing is, the nature of the instrument, and we being the instrument, and we are, according to our nature, we are doing it. So the responsibility is also ours, isn't it?
The what?
There is only one to blame.
The nature of the instrument are we,
Yeah.
human being. The nature is according to our gunas.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now
our
samskaras, individual.
samskaras.
Yeah.
So the responsibility is also the doers. That responsibility of the action that we did is ours, isn't it?
It's also ours because
So we have, that's where we build up more and more samskaras.
indeed,
So
yeah.
we can change, no matter, even if the guna is, by coming to this class, we can change our, even though our guna may be rajasic or whatever, we can change our thoughts to
Yeah, because then that provides that calls forth an appropriate guna. So if I change my thoughts from passionate to holy,
Yeah.
then it's going to naturally reduce passionate
Yeah.
guna. That
Yeah.
is this Raja guna.
So technically, you can only be responsible for the actions. You can't be responsible for the effects.
We cannot change what happens in our life. What will happen. The only thing that we can change is how we perceive what happens in our life. Okay, that's the important distinction. Also, one more point. He said there is only one to blame. Now I want to address that. Suppose that electricity flows through a fan that has a broken blade, and the fan spins, and the blade falls off, and it slices the throat of the heater. It damages the heater. Can the electricity be blamed? What was the electricity doing? It was simply blessing. That fan has a broken, faulty blade because of its own conditions. So from that moment on, as soon as that fan goes, oh my God, I injured someone's life. From that moment on, that fan can choose to change its life. How? By perceiving what happened in the light of the truth. That means dharma. If it doesn't, then it's going to only cause a much harder circumstances to create a sattvic mind in the future, thus postponing its liberation.
So you can't change action, but you can always take further action.
Okay, I want to address that part too. You can change actions. Okay, when does the action come? After you have made a decision. So once the blade has fallen off, then I go, oh, from this moment on, depending on how I think about this, is going to determine your actions. Thus, you can change your actions only if you first see it in the light of dharma, in the light of something that is more freeing than how you would otherwise always react based on past vasanas.
An example, if you had a past life that you were someone weak who was killed by someone strong, and you were very angry and you wished so much that you were stronger and you could kill them. So you come back in another life as a really strong person, and you are destined to murder someone to live out that. Are you saying there that they are destined, or can they still review that again and say, oh, on the light of another review, that I don't want to do it after all.
So the moment I'm born again, I literally have a chance to change how I perceive people. But if I don't apply hard enough work, then I'm just going to fall for the natural fate. So what is fate now? Fate is that what is supposed to happen. But I can always change it according to my perception of it. So your fate is always changing based on the present tense actions.
So it's not based on the immediate reaction that you have, like you're really angry and you want to kill them back.
Yeah.
You've got plenty of time to review that
you do,
and change your mind.
You do. That's the benefit of being a
And
human
that's how
being.
you exhaust the vasana, because for you to come back as a strong, powerful person, that's your vasana and your karma to come back like that.
Yeah.
To exhaust that karma, you then got to be a strong, powerful person and not kill someone.
I'm sorry, is it still okay to have this discussion? Because I'm still not able to get the essence of it.
And you help old
We
ladies across the
say
road
it
too.
is Prakriti, the gunas, or samskaras,
Yeah.
the environment that
It's just
that
hypothetical, guys, don't worry.
really binds us or tells us, makes us what we are. It's our own mind, I know, but it is our circumstances and the environment
Yeah.
that molds our thinking.
Yeah, but we still have a chance to change our thinking according to the environment that
Yes.
supposedly molds our thinking.
Yes, so who is really responsible for our actions? We are. But then, see, Krishna is telling Arjuna in chapter 1,
Yeah.
you're not the doer.
Yeah.
You're not killing the
That was
people.
chapter 2, yeah.
Chapter 2.
Yeah.
So you're not the doer.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Arjuna was believing I'm the body, mind, intellect, thus I am the doer. But Krishna was pointing you're not, the you have to take the word you, was it referring to what? The higher or the lower nature? The higher nature, yeah. So the waker is not the doer of the dream.
No.
Because the dream is of its own accord according to samskaras which are not even mine. And it's a different order of reality. So the waker is completely safe. Right, and there's a war going on in the dream right now. It's,
that I understand.
yeah.
Right. So this is at the
Here in this case,
at the
killing is a papa karma.
What is
Papa.
Yeah.
Killing is papa. Punya papa.
Yeah.
Killing is papa, not punya. In
Okay.
this case.
Yeah,
So,
killing is
the
always
result
papa.
is next birth you won't have this human being, some insect.
Yeah, you'll be an insect. You'll probably get, roadkill, a nice
So the person
beaver.
who killed you in the last life was an insect.
Yes.
He won't come back in the next life as a human being.
You won't remember that. So
Yeah, exactly.
You can't expect having human being.
Yeah. So you won't necessarily get a human birth
Yes.
because there's no sense to that to give you
Yes.
another human being.
Yes.
That could happen, I don't know, but there's also possibility of being an animal
Yes.
and being nicely eaten by a crocodile.
That is what he said. Human being is superior.
Yeah.
The superiority you will lose by doing the papa.
Yeah. So that's a good way to exhaust,
Yes.
and then after that's done, then you go into another
Yes.
human being.
That's it.
So I guess what we are saying here is that people do things based on the circumstances and their past impressions that they've come with.
Yeah.
So we really shouldn't. They're really not responsible. They're really a victim of their own mind, then, so to say. If they do something, then that is all part of Ishvara.
no.
No, I can't 100% agree with that.
That's,
No, what?
Okay,
Then
actually,
who is? I'm trying to get at.
no, I know
I'm-
that. Yeah.
I know what you're saying, but I'm trying to get to the grip of what really causes people to do. They do good deeds and they do bad deeds. They do neutral deeds.
Well, suppose I get into a gang,
Yes.
and now I want to do what the gang does. Why am I doing that? Because I'm in that group. I'm getting all my feelings satisfied. I feel brotherly. There's brotherly love. There's acknowledgement. There's approval. So why would I not want to continue that? But who got into the gang in the first place? I did.
Yeah.
And throughout the entire time, I am in that moment, and I'm always there in the gang experience, and I can always get out if I want. But as long as I stay, I'm going to continue doing naturally actions according to the gang. If I go into a temple and I'm offering, some love to some people, namaste or something, and I stay there, then what is my nature going to be? Consistent, correlative with wherever I find myself in. So what are we saying here? It always depends on where you choose to be. And wherever you choose to stick with is how your actions will be determined. So your actions will always reflect your own choices which you are making every single moment. Now, how do you know if those actions are useful or not? Very easy. Is this experience providing me pain, or is it something that uplifts me? So that is a guiding principle. That's how humanity always knows if something is incorrect or correct, because Dharma is built into the entire creation. Thus, we use Dharma as a guiding principle to move forward in the light of how the scriptures are saying, to live in harmony with the whole. How do you know you're living in harmony with the whole?
It brings peace.
Because the moment we suffer, I was out of place, I was out of Dharma, out of alignment with Dharma. If I say something to you and I start to feel a little bit off, that reveals that was my own blind spot. So what is my job then? To go and contemplate where did I go wrong and how can I improve next time so that it does not happen. Because if it does happen again, who's going to suffer? I will. And who wants to suffer? Nobody. We already established this. Why do you do things? To enjoy. So it is my duty to then change so that I can continue enjoying this world. So Glory 6 summary. We've just finished verse 9. I am akarta abhokta. That I am is Ishvara. So Ishvara is non-doer, non-enjoyer. I am free of all karma and karma palam. I am free of all actions and results of actions. They have nothing to do with me. O Arjuna, however, those actions do not bind me, who am uninvolved in those actions and who remain like an indifferent person. Very important instruction, how to actually go about into this world. By the way, when we say not being involved, are we saying don't do your duty in life? Absolutely. So this is absolutely clear. So this means I do my duty, but I always keep my eye on the one single content which pervades every single individual, including the very family to whom I am serving. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.